Welcome to Bloom in Full Color, where we live life in high definition.
Oh, I forgot that part.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm Jennifer the Saddam, and I've got PJ with us.
Hi there.
We are talking houseplants. So
Yeah.
when I think January, okay, you're going to hear a little bit of my cynicism about Christian American capitalism holidays. Okay, ready?
We're used to it.
Yeah, I know. Everybody who listens should be a little used to it too. It's not
Hail
like
Satan. No, that's not. Just
that is
kidding.
not what we said.
Just kidding.
Just kidding.
That's a different podcast.
You know, in another life, PJ was a professional comedian, so do remember that.
Grain of
jest.
salt, please.
Grain of salt.
This is for entertainment purposes.
So I get a little Christmased out by the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just like if I hear another goddamn carol, I'm gonna lose my mind. You know, or like Santa
Even
and elves.
the jingle of a bell.
Yeah, it just like
Murder.
murder, death, kill. Murder, death, kill. Exactly. So, speaking to, you know, holidays being hard for a lot of people, well, like you're over it. It's a new year. Let's get the shit put away. I want to, like, it was literally like the day after Christmas. My family's like, are you going to make us take all of Christmas down today? I said, I'll give you till tomorrow. But yes, I want it all gone.
I want to forget this ever happened.
I want to pretend it never existed. So in January, once you've cleaned the house of things, you're starting to get a little bit of cabin fever because it's cold. And houseplants kind of bring a revival back to your space. They bring oxygen back in. They remind you that spring's coming and that there are living things that exist in the world, even when it's a frigid 2 degrees out. I mean, mind you, I went snowshoeing this last week, and it was 1 degree when I stepped out of my vehicle. And I was fine. I went and hiked my ass all the way up the mountain and all the way back down, and I was just tootling happy to be there. So I'm a weirdo. First off, I'll go climb a mountain of snow. I love that stuff. So houseplants, you bring them into your space and they help you bring in the new year. They clear your space of all the toxins. If people are worried about allergies with houseplants, they don't actually put allergens in the air. They take them out. There's a whole bunch of science.
If they're not flowering.
I was just going
if
to say.
they're not flowering,
Nope.
but a lot of houseplants don't flower.
A lot of them do.
They do, but they're not usually in conditions that make it so they flower.
Yes,
Is
and when
that
your
fair?
houseplant is flowering and you are allergy sensitive, you put it in the house or room of your enemy, and there's your solution.
Store in
But-
your coworker's
No,
cubicle until.
I always keep flowering houseplants. It's just I'm a nerd. But yes, there are some that like I've been doing this for a long time and I'm not allergy sensitive, but some blooms and fragrances are just too much. So I do like move those into the back room or somewhere far away. But yeah, do keep in mind if you have like, you know, African violets and things like that. You know,
Jasmine.
these
If you
are
can hold on, if you have African violets, you're way better than we are. So you just knock yourself out. Because I bet. Do you
whatever
have
you
African
want.
violets at your house?
Yes.
African violets need to be watered from the bottom.
Yes, there's many secrets.
There's some secrets
and
to,
they actually
and
make a remarkably good terrarium plant.
and don't they
even
like
considering the watering problem?
don't they like to live in a certain kind of pot?
That's actually just because of the bottom watering thing.
Yeah.
There's like a 2-part African violet pot. You've probably seen one in a thrift store, but the inside one is like porous terracotta.
Okay.
And then the outside one is like normal ceramic, watertight. And so you fill that outside one, the reservoir, and
then it sucks
it
that
up.
terracotta or porous ceramic sits in that, and the plant draws it up through the ceramic as needed.
That's how African violet.
Zero moisture on African
But yes,
violet leaves. Is
picture-
what I-
So you remember
Picture
when
swamp plants in a place that never rains.
Yeah,
That
Interesting.
is what an African violet
that's
wants.
basically what it
Okay.
was.
That's a
It's-
good description.
It wants to
I
be
know.
boggy, but it has really fine hairs all over its leaves, and those will hold on to any water droplet and then rot that leaf out.
Yes. That's all I've
And
ever
if
seen
you-
is top rots with
Yeah,
violets.
it's because you're watering
Exactly.
on top.
Right.
That's
Interesting.
usually what happens. When we were growing them in the greenhouse, I don't.
I was
You were
here
here.
for the
You were
first
here,
couple
and-
years, yeah.
And we
Oh,
had those moisture mats, and that's how we
Yes.
were watering
Yep.
them. Because if the growers did anything over the top, we just had
Smoke 'em.
massive cosmetic damage. And I was like, oh crap.
Yeah.
So, and those are beasts to get shipped here because they won't ship below 40 degrees anywhere in the country, and you're trying to finish them off, and you have a very tight shipping window. And there's only one place you can get them, and it's out of Tennessee.
From
So
the
you're,
violets.
you ready for? Yeah, that's the industry side of things.
Weird.
Don't mind me.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, that's the only way you can get the starter plugs. I mean, there's plenty of growers that grow African violets to a certain degree. I mean, it's not a large pool, but it's not the same amount as pothos.
And are we really putting African violets in? I mean, like guess it's a house
They're a
plant.
house plant. But
They're a
anyways,
houseplant.
so like
Right.
from a sales perspective, from the industry side, January is the busiest month for houseplants.
Interesting.
Without question. It, like I said, it has to do with that New Year transition and the holidays and kind of like cleaning the space and starting a new leaf.
Well, and you're going from decoration high hell into like minimalism.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, put it all away.
Exactly.
So,
So
you need a
need-
little.
you need a
fluff.
fluff. Yeah. And it
buy
really
silks.
helps in this part of the world because people get cabin fever when it's cold.
Yeah, we do.
They need
No.
live plants.
You know what got me? I was never a houseplant guy. I've spent my entire life working outside and landscaping and working with plants. So I never needed to kind of bring that in to the house, really. In fact, that was my antithesis because I would be outside in the hot sun in the desert and I would go into my cool, dark cave. And guess what? Houseplants do not enjoy a cool, dark house for some
No.
reason.
You should have been growing mushrooms.
I should have, and I still want. We're going to talk about that. What got me excited about houseplants?
I know a guy that's got the bricks and he
There you
does all
go.
his own cultures. So we
um,
could talk to him.
was looking at some NASA research from a couple of decades ago, and they've just re-updated this. NASA did research trying to figure out what plants they could put in a space travel vehicle.
1985.
That was the first one. They've updated this in the last
They've
10
done
years.
it again,
they
haven't
have.
they?
They're looking at this to get to Mars. That's one of the things we got to work. If we put enough oxygen in a spaceship to get all the humans to Mars, we need a double-sized spaceship. So NASA is doing some research to figure out, could we load this spaceship up with plants, which would then provide our astronauts with oxygen? It's the same thing in your house, right? They say the house, the air inside your home is like 20 times dirtier than the air outside.
Because it's
Houseplants will
completely contained.
correct. You never get a
Yeah.
fresh breeze, right? Except
No.
for once in a while. So houseplants will not only clean the air in your home, they're actually putting out oxygen, supplying oxygen in a closed environment. Not that anybody's running out of oxygen, right? But this is what got me really tuned up to this. So it's not to me just as something to look at. It's bringing value. It's providing something to make your family better.
Okay, see,
Go ahead.
you ready for the technical word for this? And it's not a weird sex fetish. It's going to sound like
Oh, I
one.
know.
Biophilia. So it's biophilia is the science of bringing the outside inside. So in the 60s and 70s, when we got really good at construction, we created such a sealed environment that we don't get the natural
No
stuff we
exchange.
need, right?
Yep.
And so bringing houseplants into like an office space, for example, or into your home. So if you put a houseplant on your kid's desk where they do homework, they will retain 30 to 40% of the information better
That's amazing.
because it's producing oxygen for them, right?
Right
That
when they
red
need it.
flags my skepticism.
That's
a
fair. You
lot.
can
Yeah, that's a
red
high
flag
number.
your
Who did that?
Okay, so let me give you another stat, and I can actually show you the statistics on this. But they have taken like say Cubicle Farm office, right?
Right.
You're a call center.
Microsoft, right?
They put houseplants in there. They literally saw an increase in attendance 30 to 40%
Oh, and
across the
productivity.
board.
I'm sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Softening your
Same
environment.
concept. Just
I'm
how
just
do you,
skeptical
How do you
of
get it
data,
down
but-
to like your own household? So think of it as one house plant per 100 square feet. That's what the ratio is. So if you have a 2,000 square foot house, you should have 20 houseplants to clean the air. That's the math on
Well,
it.
and
If
you
you
didn't
really
even
want,
keep-
doing
hold on.
something
Yeah,
right.
it means
you're
your house
doing
is so
great.
clean.
You're doing great.
That's why he's so damn
I
healthy.
have 3 in my house.
I'm gonna tell you some fun science that's gonna piss
All
you
right.
off.
Let's hear it. It's a great way to finish my day.
House plants are only adding oxygen to the environment if they are actively photosynthesizing at their appropriate rate. They can potentially be increasing the carbon dioxide content of your indoor atmosphere if they are, let's just say,
They're unhappy.
unhappy.
Yeah.
Yes. So
I
there's
can see that.
While they're
Okay.
rotting, they're
It's-
stealing
It's
oxygen.
it's
True. Okay.
I can't remember the measure of it, but it's basically a photosynthetic efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I'm looking at this ZZ plant, which our audience can't see, but it's in a dark corner, which ZZ plants actually really are tolerant of
Yeah, they're very
low light.
they're low light
They're one of
tolerant.
the best. If you have a dark corner in your house, get yourself a ZZ
Did
plant.
you know that ZZ is also a genetically modified houseplant?
It is
Fun fact.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Zamiifolus,
Zamiifolus? Zamiifolus. Yep.
Zamicolcus, something
No.
like that.
No, Zamiifolus.
I know, but the second
Oh,
Z
yeah,
the
there
mix.
is 2 Z.
Yeah, it's a-
There's a reason it's called a ZZ plant
that's the
because
genus and
Z-
species.
it's like a Zamiifolus, whatever.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a really ridiculous long name.
So back to my point of like the photosynthetic efficiency, it's if you are adding plants to your space to increase oxygen, which is what got me into houseplants. It wasn't until years later in biology that I learned this, but you need that plant to be in its ideal condition. If it's a medium light plant, it needs medium light. If it's a bright light loving plant like a yucca, it needs to be in a southern
this
window.
just goes back to
Go ahead. I don't want to get it.
okay,
goes back to what?
Humans need fat and protein to live. They don't need carbs. I'm on this
You're
health education
twizzling.
thing. And so this just comes back to like every being needs optimum
You're correct.
things. You're saying
No
houseplants need optimum things. Sorry. It's just
No,
it
it's
seems very
hold on.
basic, but
we'll go even
Yeah.
one geek.
Wait,
Let's
wait,
go,
wait,
let's
wait,
go.
wait. Humans need carbs, but also
Yeah.
humans don't actually need carbs. You
Oh,
don't
yes.
actually need them
actually,
to
your
live.
brain is like 90% carbohydrates.
No. Okay, your brain is consisted of 90%.
the whole
Correct.
cash system of your body is glucose,
Yeah.
and that is a carbohydrate.
But you can live off ketones if you had to.
For a period of
all
time.
I'm
That's
saying.
a short
But you could survive. You cannot survive without fat and proteins.
True. And
You
oxygen, I would
can
say. You can't.
survive without carbs for a period of time. Okay.
Okay.
So
sorry.
we're talking about
Anyways,
oxygen.
medium plants, medium light need medium light.
Well,
Got it.
and as always, right? Plants are an engine, right? So if you want an engine to operate efficiently, it needs to be in all of the right
It needs to be
environment. It needs
fueled
to be the right
properly.
temperature. It needs to be the right light. It needs to be the right water. It needs to be the right fertility. You are trying to bring everything up to a level where that engine can operate at its peak, right?
Yes.
You're going to get the most out of it, whether that's oxygen or whatever. Talking about oxygen, one of the cool bits I love about houseplants, bromeliads.
oh yeah, you.
I already
you
mentioned
stuck it
this.
in my
Oh my
brain
God, I love
forever.
this.
It's there.
Bromeliads put out, they photosynthesize at night. And so bromeliads put oxygen into the air while you sleep. So bromeliads, they
even
say, put it
better.
right next to your bed and you're literally growing oxygen therapy. So while you're in your deep REM sleep and taking DIB, if that plant is near you, you are literally adding to your sleep.
Oh, okay.
Right. So bromeliads a step above, not just oxygen at the right time. Because think about it. If they're only putting out oxygen when you're at work, because that's when they're photosynthesizing. Are you really doing oxygen in your house? I mean, I'm sure you are. And you're cleaning the air because every plant has the ability to take particulates out of the air,
Yeah.
right? They're going to stick to that wet leaf. They're going to stick. It's cleaning the air somewhat. But bromeliads are putting that out while you actually are there and taking advantage of it.
Another thing about bromeliads too to remember is once a bromeliad is done blooming, cut it off because it will not bloom on that plant again.
Right.
It will
Comes
send
out the
another
pups.
shoot and you'll get the pup, which is the second shoot, and you transplant that and that's what will.
If
Oh,
you-
so the
if
first
you're
plant's
good at
completely
transplanting.
toast?
Yeah, it's a one.
Yeah,
It's like a.
it's a one and
an
done.
I
agave,
didn't
it's a
know if
one
the
and
plant
done.
would
It's a
come
one
back
and
from
done.
that.
So
Interesting.
if
No.
you can stand it, let that central flowering stem
'Cause it continues
die
to
all the way
feed,
back
right?
because that's how that energizes the pups.
That's the food storage for the rest of the growth.
If it's like a professional situation, like a cubicle where it needs to look good to be, seen okay, yeah, cut it off and fertilize then, so your pups have the energy to.
So I have a January question then about houseplants. When is January a good time for me to repot my houseplants?
No, it's not.
Okay. When is a good
There
time
are
to
some
repot?
there are some exceptions to that, and I
gotta-
mean, really anything is possible with houseplants, but
But it's not your ideal time, right?
it's not an ideal time because of the lower light levels, which we talked about in a few podcasts ago.
We're going to talk about them again.
And the shorter day length, your plants aren't working as hard. They're not actively growing. And if they are seemingly growing, they're growing at a much slower rate.
They are.
So just in your head, get this idea that in winter, a lot of things are dormant.
Yeah.
And even if they aren't, they're not actively growing, which is kind of what we use in this field.
So
You got to throw your curveball though when
is
this.
do it.
spring a good time to
Spring is the best time.
Light levels
Late
are perfect,
February,
yeah.
late
so
February. Just
light levels, temperature?
honestly, as soon as the light levels start increasing, you're okay. Like if you were to plant something in January or repot something in January, it's gonna be fine. Your house is a consistent environment. And maybe what you were getting at is if you have artificial lights on your plants,
Yeah.
then really any time's an okay time to pot.
Right.
If you've got them on like a 10 to 12
Right.
hour day, if that's what you're doing.
Yep.
I do keep my grow lights on like an 8 to 10 hour day because I don't want them totally dormant.
See, I really
But
struggle.
not-
We talked about it briefly, but I literally designed my house. I made my house unhappy place for houseplants. And most of it was because I was trying to hide from the sun. I spent 12
Yeah, I
hours
was like,
working.
I don't
you
blame you
just
living
want to
out
live
there.
in a cave.
Legit. But so once we get to that, I go, no, I want houseplants. So the only way I was able to ever have happy houseplants, because I would take them home and kill them really slowly over like 4 years.
Same.
They weren't
Some
happy.
people view that as success.
That is not success. You're just torturing that poor plant to
Okay,
death
hold on.
slowly.
For the audience members, that is a typical thing. You're still succeeding. Don't give up.
It's doing
You're
something.
And I
succeeding
remember-
in learning.
Right? Yeah, and education is expensive. So good job.
Listen,
And I just remind you that he or she who kills the most plants wins. Okay,
you're
continue.
going to learn most, right? True.
You're going to be real
One
smart.
of the fastest way that I was able to get houseplants to go from suffering in my place to up is the addition of light.
Yep.
They're so cheap now. Literally, you can go buy it from China grow light for $20
You
now.
can even
they used
put
to
a
be
timer
hundreds of
on it.
dollars, hundreds of dollars to get a good grow light. It is not that case anymore. In fact, you can go and buy a grow light LED to put in any fixture that you got to help. It has made a ginormous difference to my plants. My plants have gone from languishing to thriving. Like I'm seeing my alocasia is blooming. No one's here even seen an alocasia blooming. I'm on my
I
fourth
gotta
bloom.
show you my picture.
Right. So this is stuff that tells me, hey, these plants are getting happy. Right. So I've finally turned the corner. And I'm just saying there are some tweaks in a house. If you struggle with houseplants, one, come see Adam and ask some questions, because I promise you why I'm better is because the people here have helped me. Right.
Yeah.
They're giving me houseplants are completely different from outdoor. I have been paid to maintain outside plants for 40
It's
years.
night and day.
I struggled with indoor plants.
It's
It
night
is
and day.
not the same. It's not. So
Not the same.
Yeah.
come see us. There's tweaks. There's differences. Once I changed my attitude about houseplants, it's amazing how they
And
thrive.
Succulents can be a houseplant. Just know that they still need a lot of light. And
As
they
much as
don't
possible.
need very much water. You can
And
love them to death.
They need watered twice.
I would
a
say
winter.
most houseplants are loved to death. Everything I've ever seen
Everything.
is someone over caring for them.
And like an easy way, if you got fungus gnats, you can just take hydrogen peroxide, do 1 parts hydrogen peroxide. You can do 9 parts water. Start watering it with that. It'll eventually get rid of your fungus.
If you got fungus gnat, quit watering. That's how you get rid of fungus gnats.
That's
Knock
true.
it off.
It's
too
I'm
wet.
gonna plug people for mosquito bits is a really good product from fungus gnats. It's actually a genetically developed bacteria that only targets the larvae, so it's really safe. It's
That's
you can even put
good.
it in your animal's watering bowl. It's created for mosquitoes, but mosquitoes and fungus gnats are similar enough that this bacteria works on them. There's
oh,
my
that's
plug.
awesome. I didn't know
Me
that.
neither.
Actually, let's just outro with that. My second plug is
Let's go.
I'm teaching a class, 2, maybe 3 classes at CSI on houseplants this summer.
Continuing education.
Message us on
CSI.
Facebook or
We'll get you
get a hold of
information.
me if you're interested in that. Secondly, if you're buying houseplants in January, give them a nice jacket on the way to your car and have your
Yeah.
car be warm.
And
They
don't
will
go
be
to
fine
another
above
store.
freezing, but you really need to get them like back to a consistent temperature ASAP.
And protect them from that cold air.
And a garbage bag works, a grocery store
Yep.
bag, a jacket, a sheet, or whatever.
Yeah. Shove it
And
in your coat.
just be conscientious of temperature. That tropicals do not like to be below 55 degrees in general, and you will see some type of damage if they do. Yeah, I think
Houseplants.
January is a great time to buy plants. I get cabin fever quite a bit myself.
I don't,
I-
because I go climb mountains in the snow.
Yeah,
That's how
I
you
need to
avoid
do that.
cabin fever, folks.
Anyway, that's all I got for January houseplants.
Go get a houseplant. It's a way to improve your
Get
family's health.
houseplants. Come buy houseplants from me in March.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
ask
Buy your
It-
time.
In March, Moss will have a fresh load of houseplants.
There you
So
go.
that's a good time to come out to us. But you've got plenty of local garden centers around
Oh,
here in
yeah.
the Magic Valley that are going to have a great supply. So definitely go out there, shop. And with that, we invite you to go live life in full color because plain's pretty boring. Thank you
Cheers.
guys.